President Mike Davis, Cash, to you first. I mean, kind of where Brett and I were talking there about this RICO charge in here. They note on the indictment serious felony. Against all the other charges, it says felony. This one says serious felony. Is it an effort to get this thing fast-tracked, Cash?
Hey, it's great to be with you, Trace. And look, as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender, probably the only person who's done both sides of the aisle, this is a hatchet job by the Fulton County DA. And I remind your audience that Fulton County is 90% inclusive of the town of Atlanta, which is an overwhelmingly majority district against Donald Trump. And I focused on a couple of things that came out of the indictment. One, the repeated mention of the word corrupt. Well, they have stigmatized and made it illegal in state court to declare a federal election outcome result. That is a federal law violation that they have taken to state court. So anyone out there saying that this doesn't have any federal implications does not understand the process. And the fact that they hijacked the court at 11 p.m. at night to put this out shows the urgency behind it. But more importantly, a RICO case, which usually does dozens of defendants, as is now being shown here, is a case that takes 2 to 4 years at minimum in state court to adjudicate. And that they are racing shows you that they wanted the indictment out. But there will be interlocutory appeals along this way that President Trump's defense team should file, starting with the illegal disclosure of grand jury information. In all 50 states and the federal courts, that is a felony for the district attorney or any court officer to disclose grand jury information prematurely or at all, which now we have confirmed they did to media outlets and other people along the way. So there needs to be an investigation by them. And I'm calling on Congress because as a committee staffer at the House Intelligence Committee and a former DOJ guy, I know that federal funding goes to these county prosecutors for the prosecution of crimes, and that is your jurisdictional financial nexus to get a review by the Jim Jordan Committee or Comer Committee or what have you for federal taxpayer dollars. And the intent requirement here is something that needs to be focused. In a RICO case, when you say someone is being corrupt, there needs to be the objective, subjective standard. Donald Trump has said repeatedly he won the presidential election. He believes that firmly. In 2001, 5, and 17, when Hillary Clinton, Senator Barbara Boxer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Speaker Pelosi declared those elections unlawful and the outcome of those elections not the appropriate result, none of those people were prosecuted in state or federal court. So you're seeing a two-tier system of justice here play out in this 98-page indictment.
Yeah. Let's move on to you, Mike Davis, because it really is. I mean, Cash brings up a good point on the whole concept where, and I was talking with Brett about this earlier, where the president's camp didn't seem to be getting this information, this notice that the indictment was coming down today or tonight. And yet you had Reuters kind of releasing what appeared to be an official indictment document on the court website. The court never said it was hacked. It said it was fictitious. And now, later tonight, the indictment comes down and they look eerily similar, Mike.
Yeah, this indictment is loud, long, and lawless, and it is part of the Democrats' lawfare campaign in several different jurisdictions across America, several different Democrat hellholes across America, including D.C., New York, and Atlanta, to take out President Trump through the legal system because they fear they can't beat President Trump on November 7th, 2024. This is essentially, they're alleging a conspiracy of 19 people violating 41 different felonies for the non-crime of objecting to the presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and twisting arms politically is allowed by the First Amendment. I hope President Trump moves forward immediately with a motion to dismiss this lawless indictment. He has presidential immunity if he's acting within his presidential powers, or if he's acting within his private capacity, he has the First Amendment defense.
So, and I want to get your take on this, Mike, if I can, very quickly, because we've got the charges here. It looks like 11 or 12 of these charges. And I just want to put a couple of names on there. You have Donald John Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Charles Eastman, Mark Meadows, Kenneth Chesbrough, Jeffrey Clark. The list goes on. And I'm wondering why the long list and why the number of charges. Do you group them together? Do you try them separately? What's the process here? And what can we look forward to in the days and months to come?
This is a mess of a case. This will not hold up This will not hold up under the law. If it is not reversed by the Georgia courts, it will be reversed by the Supreme Court of the United States. The question is when, whether it's before the presidential election on November 7th, 2024, or after. But this is a shotgun approach by a Democrat prosecutor who is campaigning on taking out President Trump through the legal process, through lawfare. She set up a website. She's raising money off of this. This is a joke of a complaint.
Yeah, and back to you now, Kash Patel. Is your take same as Mike? I mean, is it one of those things where you think, you know what, they got a lot of names on this list, they got a lot of charges on this list, what's the goal? Do you put them together? And you just told us earlier, getting these cases in state court is a lot longer than in a federal court. It just takes longer. So what's the hope here with this case?
The hope is that they've issued what we call, as prosecutors, a speaking indictment. And as Mike said, it's loud and lawless, and it shocks and awes the conscience when you read it. But when you go to the underlying counts and the people involved, are we to believe that the United States justice system and the state court system in Georgia is going to indict counselors, lawyers, and legal scholars who are advising the President of the United States of his constitutional right of free speech to challenge an outcome that is the bedrock foundation of our society and our constitutional republic? Are they going to start prosecuting and piercing executive privilege and attorney-client privilege as they need to do to get this indictment past muster? And there's one other thing that we need to focus on. This is what, 12, 14 defendants? If any one of these defendants request a separate trial because they have statements that cross-muddle between the defenses of one or the other, then they have to be siphoned off, tried separately and beforehand before the rest even go. This is what we used to do in heavy narcotics trafficking cases and human trafficking cases that I defended and prosecuted. And so we are now threatening to set the Constitution on fire because a politicized government gangster in Fulton County, Georgia, wants to take out Donald Trump. And I think the American public has seen it in indictment 1, 2, 3, and now 4, that President Trump is a target. He is not an unlawful arbiter of the law. He is standing up for everyone's constitutional beliefs. And every neighbor in America is now seeing it, saying, whether I disagree or disagree with President Trump, I should have the free speech right to say my voice about the election outcome.
Very quickly, Kash, while you were talking, I was counting. It's 19 people named in the indictment. 19. Along with the charges, my question to you is, can you prioritize these in any capacity?
You as a prosecutor have now opened the investigation. You have invited the defenses that all 19 individuals can bring collectively, individually, or in part. They can sign joint defense agreements. Good luck getting all of these folks arraigned in the next coming months. And that's just the instigation of the process. Then discovery comes in, and every individual has the same constitutional rights as Donald J. Trump, even though he's the lead in this indictment because he's currently going to be the Republican nominee for the presidency of the United States. The amount of evidence that has to be challenged in pretrial litigation is going to be so heavy for one defendant. Now you have 19.
We should note the clock. It's about 18 minutes past the hour, almost 18 minutes and 30 seconds past the hour. We anticipate this news conference will begin with Fani Willis, the Fulton County DA, in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. We'll see if that timeline holds up. But back to Mike Davis very quickly, because Mike, my question on all of these things is, it's a lot of names, right? It's a lot of names to put in this indictment, and Kash was kind of laying out. That's a lot of names and a lot of retribution they have. My question to you is the hope of the Fulton County DA that one or many of these people flip on the former president? Is that kind of what they're driving at here?
That's a possibility. I think the bigger hope is that Democrats are sending a very clear warning to Republicans for 2024. If you dare to question elections in America, which you've been allowed to do up until this point, we're going to come after you as the Democrats. We're going to prosecute you. We're going to try to put you in prison. This is a very chilling indictment. It is more than crossing the Rubicon. It is only illegal to object to elections in third world Marxist hellholes, and now in New York, D.C., and Atlanta.
As far as presidential pardons go, Mike, this is different, right? This is set aside. A state indictment, a state conviction is a different animal than a federal conviction. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, and under the Georgia law, there's a statute that limits the Republican governor's ability to pardon. And I think that the legislature in Georgia needs to amend that statute and give Governor Kemp the ability to pardon in this situation, because this is clear election interference. It's clear Democrat lawfare by Democrat prosecutors, where they're trying to have Democrat prosecutors, Democrat judges, and Democrat juries and Democrat hellholes decide the next presidential election instead of the American people.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things where there's so much involved in this. Back to you very quickly, Kash Patel, because the news conference we anticipate, we just saw a couple of the